Today, we're looking at a massive, multi-billion-dollar gamble by Alaska Airlines. Now, most of us know them for their deep hometown roots, right? That distinct Pacific Northwest charm. But right now, they are stepping completely out of their comfort zone. They aren't just adding a few routes, they're fundamentally evolving their traditional business model to literally take on the world.
So here is our flight map for the day. We'll start with the local hero going global, see how they're following a well-worn path, tackle the very real growing pains and competitors they're facing, examine the power of alliances, and finally, dig into the financial viability and future of this whole grand strategy.
Okay, part 1. The local hero goes global, from the Pacific Northwest to the world.
To really grasp this, we have to understand the massive pivot taking place. This is all being driven by Alaska Accelerate, which is this sweeping, 3-year plan to yank a 90-year-old airline right out of its historical footprint. For decades, Alaska made its name as a solidly middle-class regional favorite. They built this absolutely incredible brand loyalty off their Pacific Northwest sensibilities. But today, the new ambition is to become a premium global carrier. The CEO explicitly wants to be the 4th U.S. global carrier. They're actively shifting away from just being your friendly local connection, and instead they're gearing up to fight on the world stage against airlines that literally have decades of long-haul experience.
This quote from CEO Ben Minicucci perfectly captures the mission. He says, "We want to make sure that we are the airline that takes Seattle to the world." And what you really need to take away from this is that it's fundamentally a defensive play cleverly disguised as an offensive one. You see, they've built this incredibly loyal customer base on the West Coast. But those frequent flyers, they travel internationally too. If Alaska can't take them to Rome or Tokyo, someone else absolutely will, and Alaska risks losing all that hard-earned loyalty.
And the objective data driving this push is super interesting. Right now, U.S. carriers are actually flying slightly less than half, 49.6% to be exact, of international scheduled seats. Foreign carriers have the edge. Minicucci and his team look at this and see a massive strategic gap. They're looking at their huge following in the Pacific Northwest and realizing, hey, we are leaving serious money on the table by letting foreign competitors fly our most loyal Americans overseas. Alaska wants to close that gap for good.
But this isn't just some sudden leap of faith. That brings us to Section 2, following a well-worn path, stepping stones to global scale.
This definitely wasn't an overnight decision. It's really a decade of deliberate, highly calculated growth. Think about it chronologically. First, buying Virgin America back in 2016 to really secure the West Coast. Then, realizing they desperately needed global connections, joining the Oneworld Alliance in 2021. Next, acquiring Hawaiian Airlines in 2024, specifically to inherit critical wide-body, long-haul know-how. All of these carefully placed stepping stones culminated in 2026 with the launch of their very first transatlantic flight from Seattle to Rome. So the crucial takeaway here is that Alaska is actually just the latest in a long line of airlines executing this exact same playbook. Look at Brazil's Azul. They started strictly domestic before adding intercontinental routes. Or JetBlue. They stuck exclusively to the Americas for 20 whole years before finally launching London flights in 2021. Even defunct legacy carriers like Continental and US Airways had to make this exact same pivot to long-haul flying back in the 1990s just to maintain profitable growth.
JP Morgan analyst Jamie Baker perfectly sets up the inherent danger of their quest right here. He notes that leveraging domestic heft to expand is totally natural, but he calls it undeniably the riskiest element of Alaska's plan. Because look, just because it's a known path certainly doesn't mean success is guaranteed. The operational leap from flying a 737 to Chicago versus operating a 787 to Europe, that is a monumental shift.
Which brings us right into Section 3, Growing Pains and Competitors, the reality of the transition.
Every transitioning business faces trials, and Alaska is now pitting itself directly against legacy giants. I mean, Delta Airlines has a massive global hub right in Alaska's backyard of Seattle. And a perfect reality check of this intense competitive pressure happened on April 28th during Alaska's inaugural flight to Rome. When you boldly claim to be a premium global carrier, passenger expectations are understandably sky-high. But this flight revealed some very real operational hiccups, proving that upgrading premium cabin services comes with a seriously steep learning curve.
Let's get into the weeds on those specific details. The Alaska Suites business class meal service, it took 3 hours from start to finish. Let's be real, a 3-hour business class meal service on a transatlantic red-eye is basically a hostage situation for people who just want to sleep. Also, because they're utilizing inherited Hawaiian aircraft, passengers sat in Hawaiian vintage seats with teal highlights rather than a custom true-to-brand Alaska product. And crucially,
there was zero in-flight Wi-Fi. These specifics really highlight the massive service and operational challenges of matching what established international flyers just consider baseline expectations. Now, Minakuchi himself acknowledges the need for what he calls minor tweaks, like, speeding up that meal service. But here's the real kicker. The hard product, the actual highly anticipated new custom 787 interiors, are not expected to be installed until 2028. So, for the next couple of years, this onboard product really has to mature and be heavily supported by absolutely exceptional soft service to compete effectively against airlines that already have their premium cabins fully dialed in.
Because they are vulnerable while they undergo these upgrades, we enter Section 4, the power of alliances, allies in the global arena.
Breaking down their strategy by region, you can instantly see why these partnerships matter so much. In Europe, Alaska is a largely unknown brand. I mean, who in Rome actually knows the Eskimo on the tail? Right, almost nobody. So their One World membership is absolutely crucial for getting European flyers to book their planes. Over in Asia, they are cleverly piggybacking off Hawaiian Airlines' existing, deeply entrenched sales relationships. And back home in the Americas, they're exploring even deeper ties with American Airlines to keep feeding their brand new global network.
And here is why this is a game changer for you, the passenger. By potentially joining joint businesses with absolute giants like British Airways, Japan Airlines, or Qantas, Alaska can legally coordinate schedules and fares. This means they can sell you a completely seamless ticket. You buy directly from Alaska, but you smoothly connect through London or Tokyo with perfectly timed layovers and fully integrated frequent flyer benefits. Honestly, it's the only way a mid-sized airline can punch above its weight class globally.
Finally, let's look at Section 5, Financial Viability and Future, the long game.
12. That is the number of intercontinental destinations Alaska plans to operate out of Seattle alone by the end of the decade. That is a truly massive footprint for an airline that just a few short years ago barely left North America. And to service those 12 long-haul routes, they are targeting a massive wide-body fleet of 28 Boeing 787 jets. Make no mistake, transitioning to, training for, and maintaining a massive new wide-body fleet is an enormous financial undertaking. But the reality of modern aviation is that capacity growth is entirely bottlenecked by Boeing's delivery schedules. In 2026, they only have 6 active 787s. They literally cannot launch new routes this year because they just don't have the planes. They only get 1 more in 2027. It isn't until 2028 that 4 new 787-10s finally arrive and those crucial new premium cabins get installed. Interestingly, this actually forces Alaska to steadily digest its expansion, giving them the breathing room to refine their product rather than growing too fast and collapsing under their own weight.
And financially, they are holding their nerve. Right now, elevated fuel prices are heavily knocking competitors around. Budget carriers like Spirit have struggled immensely, and European airlines like Edelweiss have actually canceled some U.S. flights simply because the fuel math doesn't work. But Alaska's leadership is explicitly ignoring this short-term pain. They absolutely refuse to delay their multi-billion-dollar strategic quest over temporary commodity spikes. Why are they so confident? Because we are already seeing real proof of concept. The Seattle-Tokyo route turned a monthly profit way ahead of schedule. At the exact same time, average load factors, meaning how full the planes actually are, to both Seoul and Tokyo exceeded 90%. They are proving that if they fly it, the Pacific Northwest market will indeed buy it. The demand is absolutely there. This brings us right back to the CEO who perfectly summarizes their ultimate challenge. He readily admits his competitors have great international products, but he says, "I think we want to bring a little bit of our uniqueness to the skies." That is the delicate tightrope they're walking right now. They have to take their beloved, friendly hometown roots and successfully translate that exact feeling into a world-class, premium long-haul product without losing their core identity. So I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. Can a beloved hometown carrier actually maintain its unique charm while scaling into a massive global giant? We are going to see if their gamble pays off over the next few years. But for now, please like and subscribe to the channel for more videos, Air Flight Space.